You're listening to the Decorate Podcast with Patrick Ali and Chad Poole.
Did you go to Starbucks just to get a free water?
No, I bought it.
Because I didn't see any coffee today.
I bought it, and I don't put coffee in it because I don't drink caffeine.
I don't think you can buy water at Starbucks.
No, I didn't buy water at
You
Starbucks.
definitely drink caffeine.
I don't drink any caffeine.
Monster.
Okay, yeah, I drink
Free
the
plug.
caffeine.
Yeah.
It's sugar-free, though. Give me a break. Yeah. All right, what's going on, dude? We're back.
Hey!
We're back with round 2 or the second half or...
Part 2?
Part 2, yeah. Last week we talked a little bit about just starting a business. We talked about equipment. We talked about types of equipment. I feel like we stayed more small format. So I think that this time around, I think we go to like large format, and we talk about the bigger. Or the people that want to be like the bigger players or the bigger fish, where they're buying large equipment and they're buying, you're getting into like the print and cut world and stuff like that.
Yeah, so people with big pockets.
Big old pockets.
Yep. Okay, so we kind of based a lot of it towards the home end of things. We got in we got in the weeds.
I got in a rant, sorry.
The copyright weeds. But yeah, we should talk about what if you have a bit more of a money to play with, money to invest, or you may have investors that can give you that dollar amount, so you don't have to stick with just under $2,000 or so. Yeah. So there's a lot of different avenues you can go down. You've got DTG, you've got screen printing, you've got sublimation, you've got print cut machines. You can go a multitude of different ways with it. Yeah. It really depends on what you're doing and what you're looking to get out of it. Yeah. So DTG, we discussed on the first episode a little bit. Obviously, that's for smaller runs typically, unless you've got a lot of money and you want to get 4 of them. They're fantastic. For the most part, you're dealing with white ink, which you have to purge constantly. So that's...
It's expensive.
It is expensive, and that's another cost. Yeah. And we'll get into consumables a little bit later. But, all of these pieces of equipment come with additional costs for consumables.
And it's not to say that your larger budget, you have to get into like the print and cut, world or the screen print world. Trust me, you can spend a lot of money in what I consider still small format and be successful. But I think it's smart to always tie in the digital media side of things as opposed to just heat transfer vinyl, because most people start out my way, where you start out with heat transfer vinyl, and then you at some point in time you're going to graduate yourself, or you just, out of necessity. Like, listen, heat transfer vinyl and pressure sensitive vinyl is great to use. However, in my opinion, this is solely my opinion, I don't know if the rest of the court agrees, but the versatility, or at least the amount of the color palette, is always going to be beaten when you get into, say DTG or even print and cut,
screen print.
Screen print. You're going to be able to add a lot more into it. So let's kind of hop into it, man. We were talking about, people with larger budget, DTGs, sublimation printers.
So I think what we should start with is limitations. Yeah. And I think it's important to realize that. So DTG, obviously we talked about the white ink. Yeah. If you don't have white ink in your DTG machine, you're only printing on white T-shirts. Right. So that creates a huge limitation there.
100%.
Sublimation, typically you're printing on white polyester garments. Yeah. Unless you have the ability to cut pieces and sew them back together, we're talking that's extensive labor and a lot of money.
Which is a whole nother world, man. I mean, making your own apparel, just, flat apparel to sublimate onto. Yes. And then going back and sewing it all together, that stuff.
Now, what's kind of unique about sublimation is you're not limited there just on garments. Yeah. You can do mugs, you can do license plate holders, you can do keychains, you can do anything with a substrate that will absorb that gaseous ink. Yeah. So for those of people that don't know, sublimation is a gaseous ink that is printed onto typically a paper, and then once it's at its optimal degree, which is generally around 400 degrees, it then becomes a gas and it expands into the substrate that you're printing on. Right. So sublimation's
and dyeing basically the material.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're a little bit more diverse with sublimation as opposed to DTG. The other thing about DTG is typically you're looking at ring spun cotton shirts only.
Right.
I think there's been some advancement now that you can do certain polyesters with certain pre-treats, but you're kind of still limited in that realm.
Right.
As to where sublimation, you can get into some niche things, some different things that you can market, put on shelves, not just shirts. But for shirts, it's difficult because, like I said, you're dealing with white polyester, and unless you're decorating the whole shirt and you know how to cut and sew, not a lot of people are going to be clamoring for just a white polyester.
I made a pair of socks.
Socks are cool
with Brett's face on it a few weeks ago, and I'll tell you the hardest thing that I've ever done is sublimating onto like a pair of socks, sublimating on any type of material, shirt, socks, anything that has a seam is like the biggest pain for me, but that's, you know, just for me personally. So I had 2 white streaks on either side of the socks, which I guess they kind of looked cool with it, but that's also going back to, are you cutting your own material, sewing it back together later, or are you sublimating directly onto either already made garment, or are you sublimating onto like a substrate? Substrates, I think, are the most common. People like to do mugs and tumblers and stuff like that.
Yep, and another thing that, to your point there, it's not just the seams, but it's also laying out what you're applying to, because typically you're seeing just a paper. Yeah, you can't see past that. So if it shifts or it moves at all underneath your heat press, you're going to experience what we call ghosting.
Right.
And socks in particular, if you're dealing with a flat surface and you flip it over, you've got the 2 white stripes.
Explain a little bit of like what ghosting means.
Ghosting is basically if once it hits that gaseous ink, and if something moves, since it's still a gas, it's not absorbed into the product, it will cause like a blurriness, or what we call ghosting. And that happens very commonly in the sublimation world. So that's kind of the advantages of sublimation. Some of the disadvantages, same with DTG. Now we can get into kind of my world, which is print cut systems.
Which you did, obviously, the studio here.
By myself. No, I printed it. It took quite a while, but I was able to print this on a print cut machine. Patrick and I put it together yesterday. Took us quite a bit of time, but ultimately, with the RIP software that came with my printer, it tiled up really nicely, and we were able to put it on without too much of a hassle. So
I want to get in more into this when you're done. I want to get into like profiling too.
Yes, I will confuse everybody easily.
Yes, that's what I want.
That's what I'm here for.
What we're here for.
Yeah. But no, print cut systems, obviously, there's a bit of a bias there. But the reason I say that is I do think it is probably the most versatile equipment that's out there, especially if you're just starting. Sublimation, you're only going to be able to offer so much unless you have, your vinyl cutter and your heat press. Screen printing, same thing. DTG, same thing. With print cut systems, whatever you can put in that machine, you're unlimited on color.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about, hey, if I've got an 8-color job, I've got to burn 8 screens and it's 12 T-shirts.
Right.
That's not worth my time. So this is literally using eco-solvent ink through a print head, so you can print on any white substrate as many colors as you want.
Yeah.
There's multiple different types of medias out there for certain feels. There's some that are easier to work with than others. There's some that block dye migration.
Yeah.
There's plenty of options out there for specific garments.
Yeah.
Some that will adhere to, silk or even nylon or rayon and stuff like that. So there's different formulas for different medias for print and cut systems. But what I like the most about print cut systems, and I get made fun of sometimes for this, but if I have a 1-color job, I'm not going to print it.
Right.
There's no reason to, because there's what people sometimes don't understand is with a print cut system, there's 2 processes. So you print it.
Yep.
Printer, the media comes off your printer. You weed it, and then you have to mask it. So you have to purchase a mask, you use the mask, and then you apply it on the shirt, because the adhesive's actually underneath where the carrier is. So if it's a 1-color job, instead of taking that extra step and masking it, I'll honestly just put Caesar Easy Weed in my printer and use it as just a cutter.
Yeah.
I don't have to print.
Right.
But you're not limited to just heat transfer there. You've got banners, you've got canvas, you've got, we were just, I think in the teaser or the first episode, we were talking about how the sign industry is booming right now with social distancing signs, and it's an election year. How many signs do you see down the road?
Yeah.
Graduation signs. So you can hit almost every single market with just one piece of equipment.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. And
in my biased opinion.
In your biased opinion. But what I like a lot about it too is that I almost feel like, now obviously the initial cost in anything when you're going to a larger format or larger scale, printer, plotter, equipment, or even materials, there's always an initial cost to it. However, I think in the long run, especially when you get real good and you get real dialed in with, eliminating as much waste as possible, what works for you, I think the cost efficiency of it makes more sense long term.
Yeah. And going back to kind of what we were talking about initially, is there's a cost involved with all of these pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
So you've got ink. You've got consumables such as blades, cap tops, wipers, simple things that you have to commonly replace in DTG machines, sublimation machines, and print cut systems. But, we also talk about mask. So that's another product that you have to carry.
Yeah.
So in regards to how you want to start, it's really what you expect to market your target
businesses. Yeah. And well,
audience.
here's another thing too. I zoned out a little bit in that whole thing, but anyways, another thing too that I really, really like is that, what I really like too is that you're not limited on the types of garments you can do as well. If you're going into sublimation and just polyester, or you're going into DTG and it's just ring spun cotton. I mean, there's materials out there in the print and cut world and large format world that allow you to literally print on anything that then turns that into a heat transfer vinyl in which you can use on literally anything and everything you want. And I think that even something that people don't realize is like, patterns. So Caesar Easy patterns, those are all printed.
That is a huge market right now that is growing. So literally people are just printing edge to edge on a media.
Yeah.
And they will resell it to mostly the craft market.
Yeah.
And then people can cut their design into whatever they want.
Talk about startup cost though. Like for an average, say like a print and cut, you get like a Roland.
I like them.
Yeah, I like them too. Shout out Kenny Gin over at GSG, by the way.
Oh, I got a lot of guys.
Okay, well, I got Kenny Gin, so.
Okay. Well, Daniel, Vlad, Scott Burgess.
Okay.
All those guys.
Kenny Gin, I'm faithful to you, buddy. That's it. No, but talk about kind of the startup cost in the Rolands, because they are expensive. However, like I said, I think that in the long run, once you really get your business established, especially if you're getting in the large format space, we're not talking about. And you may run one out of your basement. Like we learned last episode, you have a print and cut machine in your basement, that you use. So and you have your room where you do your business stuff at. But, when you have a commercial space and you're able to invest in yourself or invest in a few more machines, yes, again, it's expensive, but in the long run, it definitely can be well worth it for sure.
For sure. So, startup costs, I would say for a print cut system, I won't base it just towards Roland, even though I'm quite biased. I think I said that 3 times already.
Yep.
But I would say you're looking at anywhere for a 30-inch, usually they're 30-inch and up to 64-inch.
Yeah.
So for entry level, honestly, I would go on eBay or go on Craigslist. There's something that you can have whoever's selling it, they can pull a report to show you how many times the head's been fired and et cetera. But ultimately, if you can look at that avenue and start with a used printer, you can get them as low as $5,000.
Yeah.
Which I know that's still a lot of money, but
we're talking about larger budgets.
Format and larger budgets. Yeah. If you're looking at something new, I would say you're probably anywhere from 12 to up to $30,000.
Yeah.
For a print cut system.
So and talk about material wise, you can probably get a 50-yard roll of regular material for somewhere in, you know, anywhere from $250 to $500.
Yeah, I was gonna say about $250.
Yeah, $250 to $500, somewhere in there. And you know, again, that kind of doesn't limit you in any way, because there are materials out there. I just want to kind of go into some of them. There's some that are for, you know, like Lycra. There's some that are for dye migration that help block some of that color. And if anybody doesn't know what dye migration is, that's when you have like a sublimated garment and you're putting a material on the top, and over time the dye will actually absorb and show on the media. Now, it won't necessarily saturate the entire media. However, you will get some discoloration.
For sure.
So there are materials out there that stop that from happening, which is nice.
Now, the other thing that people need to realize is that all of these products are there for a reason.
Right.
If we had one end-all, be-all piece of equipment,
be awesome.
We wouldn't be in this room right now.
Right.
it would just all go to whoever sold that product.
Right.
With print cut systems, typically your media is when we're talking about hand, basically means the feel of the garment. It's not the best. It's not going to feel like screen print. It's not going to feel like DTG. It's certainly not going to feel like sublimation, because sublimation's into your garment at that point. However, like I said, going back to the versatility of it, and I'm going to drop a huge secret, and I better get reimbursed somehow for this. Anytime I make garments for somebody, let's say I'm doing 10 to 12 shirts, I always throw in decal or signed vinyl, and I'll take their logo, not my logo, because I'll just toss that. But specifically take their logo, I'll print their logo, and your cost per square inch on ink is like 2 cents a square inch. So it's very, very inexpensive to throw their logo, throw it in a box, cross-promote yourself, and they'll say, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And that gets the ball rolling into other things.
That's an industry secret there. All right, so the drop wars have begun, ladies and gentlemen. No, but that's really cool. I think it's always an add-on. Like what I normally do, you know, in one of this is more for inkjet printers, but Avery, you know, has labels that you can make. And I've always done that in my own business. When I'm packaging up a shirt, I usually do put a label on it that has my company name and stuff. So to have somebody that'll not only print your, you know, logos for your shirts for you, because essentially, like what we were talking about last week, that may be somebody that stays with a more small format, and that now you're the third party that they're going to. You know, they're third partying those services off to you to help them to get that. So by you printing their logo as giving them marketing material, now showing them a new world. And that just kind of ties it all together where, you know, that really, I just think it's super important, you know, from a marketing standpoint to kind of go in that direction.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think is missing nowadays is put even a brochure in the box.
Personal touch. Personal
touch, but also advertise what you can do with your equipment.
Yeah.
So not just providing them a physical sample, which they're going to enjoy. Like I said, if you print your own logo on it, typically I'm throwing that right in the trash. I don't really care about that.
Right,
but if it's my logo, well, then that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like you said, a personalized touch. And if you throw a brochure in there that says, hey, we also do magnets, we do banners, we do wall graphics, we do canvas, whatever it may be, that may open someone else's eyes to hey, I can go to this guy for anything.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up something earlier, and I kind of want to hit on that. We were talking about communities last, just the print community in general, or cut community even. I've noticed just from being in customer shops that competition obviously can be a good thing.
Yeah.
Even if you're looking for pricing, but also there may be, let's say you're Mr. Moneybanks over there, and you get this, you get 4 DTGs.
Yeah.
I love the feel of DTG. So, but I have a print cut system. A lot of times what people will do is, instead of creating competition between themselves, they'll pass off jobs between each other.
Right.
And if you have a certain piece of equipment that somebody else might not have, it's a win-win for both parties.
Really?
Yeah.
So you actually did third party to other companies that may be able to do the same thing.
Local companies.
Yeah.
So if you have a local sign company, typically they're not, you know, doing garments very often. So if they have a screen print company, you have referrals that way.
Yeah.
When someone comes to a screen print company and says, hey, can you do signs too? No, but I got a guy over here. So it's kind of like a friendly referral type of a
and I don't
community.
I don't think, unless you really pay attention to it or you're in this industry, you don't really, I don't think people realize how much, whether it's eco-solvent, UV, large format, large scale signage is actually out there, you know, and that was something that's very interesting to me. And obviously, like, we travel quite a bit for work, and so you're in rest stops all the time. But even as far as, you know, now we have the signage on the floor 6 feet apart, blah, blah, blah. But even signage of, like, the local businesses, you know what I mean? A lot of times those are printed on a large scale, large format printer. So your ability to increase your revenue on the large, once you finally get into or graduate into that large format world, is really there. I mean, something as simple as doing wall wraps. We were talking about this the other day. I mean, this is probably a $2,000 job.
Depends where you go.
Depends on where you go.
Feel free to reach me via email. I'll go after the show. No, but depending on where you go, there's a brand out there that I think everybody knows that makes wall graphics that can be quite expensive. And honestly, when we're talking about pricing, which we didn't really get into, shop your competition.
100%.
There's nothing wrong with seeing what your local person that's doing the same exact thing is selling their product for. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing illegal with that. Matter of fact, I had a story, an old boss of mine, he was, someone came into his shop trying to say, hey, you know, let me get 50 shirts of this, and it's going to have a left chest, and they started going through the proofing process, and you know, he ended up telling him what the cost would be at the end of it. And, you know, at the end of the conversation, he says, hey, do me a favor. I know you're not going to order today, but next time you come in, take off your HX Sign and Graphics shirt when you come in.
Really?
Swear to God.
Oh, no.
But they laughed it off. Yeah. Honestly, they laughed it off because the guy was like, look, I know I was kind of, you know, putting one over here, but at the same time, I just wanted to shop the competition, and they actually became friends. So.
That's good. And you'll notice that too a lot at shows. Like, you know, I think people assume that when you're at a show and you see all of these different brands and all of these different companies, that everybody's like, you know, glaring across
it's all aisle. Cutthroat, man.
It's all cutthroat, and everybody's beating each other up in the parking lot. But it is a community of people.
It's not.
You know what I mean?
It's not what you would think it is. It's not what you would think it is. And in actuality, when you go to those shows, I can't tell you how many times I've been at a trade show and I've seen people, oh, hey, Bob, or you know, they just it's a tight community. Yeah. And I don't think people are out to get each other, which is very refreshing.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to see. And as we get into the second half of this too, and talk about, you know, softwares and stuff like that, we'll go over kind of where we learned. Because the funny thing is I've learned a ton being here just in general and learning this world, but I've also learned a ton on the road from others that, you know, may be considered quote unquote our competition, or, you know, and sometimes you don't even realize that sometimes you don't even realize some of those softwares you're using are actually your competition software.
I've been there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So
I may have done that.
So let's hit a quick break here. We'll come back. We'll start talking a little bit more and introduce a new segment.
Let's do it.
Alrighty. This episode of the Decorate Podcast is brought to you by Caesar North America. Caesar North America is a world leader in heat transfer vinyl as well as pressure sensitive vinyl. And listen, guys, I use Caesar products in all of my personal business, and I can tell you that the quality and longevity is simply unmatched. If you want to learn more about Caesar North America, simply go into the App Store, download the Caesar North America app, and don't forget to hit the drop-down menu and click Find a Distributor to find out where you can find Caesar products today. All right, we're back.
We're back.
We're back, and we're back with a new attitude, I think.
I hope so. You were just killing the vibe over here the first half of this thing, man. You're usually like, oh, I'm going to drive freaking podcast, make Chad laugh a little bit. Chad says something stupid. I'll play the drop. It's all good.
Yeah.
Today's different.
Today is different.
You want me to talk about Pica some more?
that always works. Yeah. No, it's a little dreary outside. I think.
Outside right now. So here's I'll give you my week. I've had, like, out of the last 5 days, I've had like 0 sleep at night. Then we come in today, and it's actually a decent day, and it's hot out too. Like when I go home,
horrible.
Like I come from the office, and I'm driving home, and I'm just like sweating bullets the whole way home. So it's just miserable. It's one of those weeks that just drain you. But then it starts raining out today. randomly too. It just starts raining out today, and they're staying 60-mile-an-hour winds.
Makes you cry.
Yep. So it's pretty crazy, and it's an emotional day. Today's my son's birthday, and he's 6. So I put a post.
What was his name? What's his name again?
Landon.
Happy birthday, Landon.
Happy birthday. This will actually come out a week after, but for anybody out there that doesn't know, we're trying to film like a week before. But yeah, so his birthday's today, and this morning I was a mess. I called my wife this morning because and we'll get back in the show, I promise. But I called my wife this morning, and I like made this post on Facebook, and he's like 6 now, so it's like for me it's a big deal. And I'm just like bawling at my desk, and I'm like, I can't believe he's 6. He's my firstborn, man. Yeah. I'm excited for him. So back.
Well, I have to comment on that because my wife, for the longest time, she loves the name Landon. And if we had a boy, we have a little girl. She's a year and a half.
Yeah.
She's the greatest kid ever, which I'm sure they all are if they're yours. But
I got one I could probably give away.
That's cool. I won't take it. Just Rob could probably teach him.
You need a kid?
Teach him a thing or two.
I was disassociating for about 45 seconds. I have no idea what we were talking about.
Don't worry about
I heard
it. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
My mom's voice started playing in my head.
Don't worry about
it's
it.
like, when are you going to get
You're
me a
gonna be
grandson?
fine.
Yeah,
You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine.
Okay.
That's funny.
No, but my wife loves the name Landon. If you think about my last name, I said hell no.
Landon Poole.
Landon Poole.
That poor kid.
Yeah, dude.
That poor kid. Yeah. You know, when
Olympic
I'm not gonna bring up what they used to call me, but man, I just couldn't imagine. So I nixed that really quickly.
Okay. All right.
So let's get back to the show.
All right, we're back though. I'm back. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to be somber.
No, you're good, man.
Right,
we just wanted to cheer you up a little.
All right. So what do we got to talk about? What's on the board? We're talking about graphic software.
Yes.
Graphic software is kind of funny because there's definitely a division in this world of graphic software. There's like the large format people that do it on their own kind of graphic software.
Yep.
And then there's the entry-level graphic software.
Comes with the stuff.
And for whatever reason, both like worlds sometimes don't collide all the time.
A lot of times.
And again, if you're a graphic designer, you're probably using all of the suites. You're using Adobe, you're using CorelDRAW, you're using Flexi, you're using Raster Link. You know, you're using all of these softwares that are more tailored for the high dollar figure, right? Because they all cost money too. If you're in the small format world, you're driving more in like the Cricut, the Silhouette, the Sure Cuts a Lot, the Sign Master, the Vinyl Master, the Sign Vinyl Sign Master, whatever they are now.
Or free software that people
SVG websites.
Yeah, or SVG, pick SVG and remove background. And we can go on and on and on.
CADWorks, there's a bunch.
On and on and on about that. So
and some of those are good.
Yeah,
I want to point that out.
Yeah, they're all great.
Depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you do anything with with craft?
I find that software the hardest thing.
Really?
To learn. Well, I'm just so used to
doing every step by yourself.
Well, I'm used to Corel, Adobe.
Yeah.
Because of the wider format, those. And I'm glad we're talking about this because we're talking about a large budget and you're just jumping into something, right? I cannot emphasize enough to learn graphic software before even thinking about putting $1 down towards a machine.
Yeah.
Because I've had too many customers in the past, unfortunately, that will say, this is a real story, by the way. So I had a customer at a trade show, and they wanted to purchase a 54-inch machine.
Yeah. And
I was kind of qualifying them. What are you using it for? Where are you putting it? What's your target audience? How much do you plan on actually using this?
Yeah.
And they kind of checked off all the boxes. So when we went to make the sale, I said, wait a minute. I have to ask you a very important question beforehand. Do you have Corel or Adobe? And she goes, yeah, I have Adobe. And I said, well, what's your comfort level?
Yeah.
Great. Fine. I'm like, okay. So the unit was sold. I was unfortunately the one that had to go out and install this machine. So I get there, I set up the machine, everything's great. I go on her computer and I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, where's the Adobe at? And she goes, well, it's right there. She had Adobe Flash Player.
Oh,
God. That's a real thing.
No, really?
That actually happened.
Really?
So now...
Where did you have to go to do this to?
I might have been in Colorado. So now, not only do I have to teach her all about the machine, which we're there for. That's what we're...
Now you're doing a software 101.
Well, Yes, but we also had to go out and purchase the software. This is before the subscription base.
Right, man.
So literally go out, purchase the software while I'm inking up a machine. The customer comes back. Now we've got to install the software, so that's another hour.
How much did that cost you back then?
Adobe?
At least $800, right?
I think it was like $5.99, so right around there, ballpark it. But
inflation, you know,
it's
a wonderful thing.
Let's roll with the times. But no, in all honesty, the typical install would usually take me about 7 hours because I'd like to go a little bit above and beyond. I had to extend my trip because I had to teach very basics in graphic software. So I can't emphasize enough, if you're even thinking about DTG, print cut, I mean, even sublimation. Sublimation's a little bit easier just because you're not like putting cut lines on things. Right. You have to know that those softwares do not come with design software half the time, and you have to understand how to use them before you put a thought in your mind of getting something like that.
Well, and shout out to Lady in Colorado. Hopefully now she's like super good at it.
She calls me.
Okay, well,
good. You've nurtured a relationship.
No, she calls me, asks me how to use Adobe stuff.
Okay, well, and then there's that.
If you'll allow me to just kind of jump in, this is my area of expertise. Is the multimedia. So back then, when you were teaching
Which she really doesn't live in Colorado. I was making that up because I don't want to call her out, but she does still call me. Sorry.
Okay, got it.
So when you were teaching her, when do you know like roughly what year this was?
Oh, probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. So YouTube was still a thing, right?
Yes. Yep.
So that's the biggest thing that I stress to people because I've assisted teachers and things with multimedia is YouTube. You can learn anything you need to learn on YouTube.
Yeah.
Rob coming in hot.
I'm just saying, guys, if you're spending money on your cut machines, if you're spending money on your materials, the last thing you need to do is spend money on learning how to make a design.
Right.
Yep.
So go to YouTube, type in what you want to do.
Yeah.
10 minutes you can learn it. And if you don't feel comfortable that way, there are classes you can take on YouTube that start you from the ground up.
Yeah.
And by the end of episode 10, you know, maybe they're an hour-long episodes each if you really want to pound the pavement.
Yeah.
By the end of episode 10, give it 10 days, you know, one day a week, whatever, you will be able to take that and your creative juices will be flowing. You'll know how to create anything you can think of by then. It's your biggest tool is YouTube.
So I'm really glad you brought that up because what we would do, I managed a tech support group years ago, but what we would do is if the comfort level was, let's say, in most of the times the customers would be honest with us before we pre-sold equipment, but they said, I'm okay. You know, maybe I've been playing around with it for 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
We would still be comfortable enough to sell them that piece of equipment. Now, I've turned down people that said, I have no idea. And I said, and it's not turning down a sale. It's get comfortable, watch YouTube, get the software, practice. Let's revisit this in a couple months because at that time, okay, put on the salesman hat, then put on the tech hat.
Yeah.
I'm screwed either way. Like, who are you going to call? You're going to blame the sales guy? But no, we used YouTube a lot for tutorials and whatnot, and it's a great learning tool. Still continues to be a great learning tool. That's
what I was told. When actually, it's funny when I started here. You know, I came from again the craft world, so Cricut, Design Space. In my eyes, Design Space or Silhouette, everybody's on one side of the fence or the other. Design Space is one of the greatest softwares that I've ever used entry level. You know, like getting into it, and obviously you got to connect it to your Cricut. So you have to have that machine to go with it, which it's kind of good that, you know, they really did an all-encompassing software and cutter together. But I learned so much there. Once I got into Corel, you know, when I started here, it basically was like, here's Corel, figure it out. Not necessarily like that, but figure it out. YouTube was the biggest proponent. I went on there to learn everything I can. I mean, we have a great team around us of people that know this software too, but there's even a mixed bag. Like Joe loves Adobe. You know, he does Corel, but he does Adobe. Adam does Adobe. I like Corel. You know, it's just everybody has their preference. So what I ended up doing is I took my Corel and I just changed the look and the aesthetics of it to Adobe.
Yeah.
So now I have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Just Rob, can you do me a huge favor?
Of course.
I think we should put that out to our listeners. What do they think the best entry-level software is for vinyl cutting? And also, what is your preference, Corel or Adobe?
Let's cut that and put it on the social.
Yeah.
And then next week we'll do it.
I am a Corel guy.
Yeah.
And it's funny. There's been a change in the guard over time. And I'll tell you the reason why. Adobe was genius by giving all of the colleges their software for free.
Right.
So what does everybody learn
Adobe.
in college? They learn Adobe. What do they take out of it? Adobe.
Adobe, yeah.
The only problem is most of them learn on Macs, and Macs are not necessarily up to the PC level with the larger format equipment.
Right.
So, but again, what do they know? They know Adobe. So
Yeah.
to me, Corel is a little bit more user-friendly to learn.
Yeah.
But Adobe has more features.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. And
But let's talk. I'd be curious to get what kind of feedback we get.
Yeah.
So
I'll open a poll up. How
Yeah.
about that on Instagram?
A
do that.
pool? Landon pool?
Poll, Landon.
we'll open a Landon pool up. This is the Landon pool, guys. Yeah, we'll do that. And then, I like the reason why I like Corel too. So let's just kind of lay out everything. So you have Cricut Design Space. You have Silhouette Studio. You have Silhouette Designer, which is like an upgraded version of the free.
What's the Canvas work? Is it Canvas Workspace?
Canvas, yeah, there's Canvas Workspace. Then you have your Corels and your Adobes. Okay, so those are really all your bread and butter and where you're going to see the most. Now, if you buy like if you get a US cutter, if you get a cutter, I think it comes with SignMaster automatically, but it's to just convert your files so that you can actually just connect with the cutter, you know what I mean, and actually cut your file out. So, but yeah, once I moved into Corel, the plugins that were available for it to actually be able to plug directly into one of your machines and take it right from Corel to the cutter the same way that you can do from Cricut to the Cricut cutter. It just made a lot more sense, and there was a lot more versatility. Now, going back to our conversation on the last episode, that's when you start getting more advanced and making your own designs. I mean, granted, yes, you can take other designs, or you can take a logo. If you have a customer that has a logo, you can auto trace it and stuff like that. But once you get into designing on your own and actually getting into creating new and organic and fresh ideas, that's when Corel and Adobe are really cool, because you can manipulate that system in ways that you can't manipulate others.
100%. And I think the most important thing to learn if you're jumping into this world and you're starting to understand Corel or Adobe, learn how to put a cut line on something.
Yes, contour.
And also understand the difference between raster and vector art.
Yeah.
So for those people that don't know, raster art is usually taken with a photo.
Pixels.
It's pixels. It's literally pixels.
Yep.
That is not line art. So vector is line art. So you can manipulate it. You can scale it as big as you want. You can scale it as big as this wall.
Yeah.
It's not going to change and distort.
Yeah.
If this was raster image, the pixels would be this big.
Yeah.
Now, it depends on your application. If you're doing a billboard,
yeah,
you're driving 70 miles an hour and it's 200 feet, who cares?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But understand the difference between raster and vector. A lot of people get the misconception that you cannot put a cut line on raster images. That is not true.
Right.
There's some manipulation that has to be done, but you can do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say those are the two biggest things. Understand the difference between raster and vector. Understand how to put a cut line on something.
Yeah.
Real quick to bounce off of that point in terms of vector, mastering the pen tool. If you guys are familiar with that.
Yeah. If you wanted to draw on your own.
pen, yeah.
Right. Or even just to take, if you want to convert your own raster to vector, you have a logo of a client, pen tool.
Well, I will tell you this. There's an argument against that. So Chris showed me the pen tool. First, he's got that big, 7x7 tablet in front of him all the time. That's all
you
he
don't
uses.
need that.
That's all he uses for his mouse. Even he has everything.
That's all he does.
Yeah, he scrolls Reddit on that.
Yeah. I mean
to
it's pretty sweet when we come out of here.
No, I mean, like, that's all he does at work. Oh, I'm kidding. Chris is the man. Not a funny one.
Anyways, no, but
Chris. Actually, Chris designed this whole thing.
Yeah,
by the way.
Yeah, it was really awesome. Keith,
probably not on the 7x7 tablet, but he may have. I don't know.
Yeah, he did.
No,
did he really?
He does everything on.
No, he's a fantastic artist.
Yeah, and so he actually showed me how to basically just take the grid lines and adjust grid lines around images. Takes forever, but it's an alternative. So it's a way to learn how to really tie in an image and make sure that you're getting to make your templates and stuff like that. We should actually almost probably do like just a 1-minute clip of having that done to kind of show people how to.
Yeah.
I think it'd be kind of cool to go into like how-to segments and stuff.
100%. And I think as we go along, and this is something that we talked about, I think yesterday, but there's going to be not just our beautiful faces in the podcast and on YouTube, but I think we are going to start putting out more tutorial videos on graphics, troubleshooting, tech support type of deals. And I think that as we're talking about YouTube, it would only help if we put more stuff out there. So I think that will be coming soon.
Yeah.
Back to the pen tool.
Yeah.
You're an Adobe guy. Or are you a Corel guy?
I'm just about anything.
I know them both.
A lot. I prefer Adobe. Okay. I will say that.
So in Corel, they have something called what's called the Bezier tool, which is very common. That. However, there's a secret tool in there that one of my customers taught me a long time ago. It's called the B-spline tool.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever used it.
B-spline,
yeah.
It's fantastic because the Bezier, you kind of have to draw and drag and you have to stop at certain points. This, you can literally just click and it will put nodes around whatever you want.
Right. Yep. Well, you guys know about when you get more advanced with the pen tool, using the Alt-Tab, Alt-Shift-Control, those all give you drastic, they're involved. You get the Bezier tool. You get, your curves, you get your shortening.
We'll shortcut Rob over here.
Yeah, shortcut.
Hey, if you're using a graphic software,
you have to know
key shortcuts.
You have to know
100%.
You'll learn that.
The only thing I know is Control-C and Control.
Well, and another thing too that we're going to be learning here too is Adobe, just Adobe Cloud or
Premiere.
Adobe Premiere. So
Premiere
I'm excited
and
to get
Audition for this podcast too.
Good luck.
It's going to be a fun time.
Listen, it's the reason I like Adobe so much. The reason I'm an Adobe boy, as they called me in college.
I'm an Adobe boy.
is because when you learn one software in Adobe, you now know all the softwares in Adobe. It cross-platform.
Yeah.
All the buttons are the same.
And I have to say, I don't utilize the other platforms that Corel offers. Right. I know there's like Corel Paint or something.
So there's Corel Capture and there's Corel Photo. I use like Corel Capture a lot, actually. I'll take an image from Corel, throw it in there, and I'm able to actually, it's kind of like if anybody's familiar on the small format side with a website called remove.bg. It's basically a background removal tool. It'll actually just take the background directly out. It does that, but it keeps your file as like a vector afterwards. So you're not, when you do it into remove.bg, what will end up happening is you'll still have to go in and power trace it, or you still have to go in and contour the actual image and then slice it out. Sure. So I'm talking more Cricut users of slicing. They're more familiar with that. And but what this will actually do is it'll keep that background removed, and it gives you basically like an SVG, like a full scale.
Just Rob, how much do we have left? Because I have to add one thing. We got a little time. All right.
We got all the time we need, man. If we need to extend, we can extend.
I'm just thinking 3 hours.
Now I'm in a good mood.
Well, let's roll.
All right, let's do it.
No, so I wanted to backtrack a little bit because you guys brought something up that made me think that I don't want to scare anybody out of not getting equipment.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Because there are websites out there that you can outsource your artwork to.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're comfortable doing that, and if whoever you talk to that's selling the equipment and they're knowledgeable enough and they give you that advice to, hey, just because you don't understand Corel right now or Adobe right now, if you outsource your artwork, there's plenty. Aardvark.com, I think, is one.
Upwork.
There's plenty of them. Now, there's a fee. Typically, it's $15 to $12 to $20, I guess.
Fiverr has tons of people looking.
Oh, they have artists, graphic artists.
Yeah. So, and usually the turnaround's generally within 24 hours. Right. So you can take a raster image, shoot it over to them. They will send it to you not only in multiple file formats, but they'll put a cut line on it too.
Really?
So you don't. Me saying, hey, if you don't know this,
well, I used to do that.
Shun you.
I used to do that for like 2 years for a buddy of mine who owned his own print and cut T-shirt service, and he would have like a family event come in. He'd need 50 T-shirts with the face of the grandpa on it, right? And he'd send me the picture. And I'm lucky enough to have the iPad with the Apple Pencil. Yeah. And I would basically just trace it and create cut lines out of that.
Yep. So, and I have no shame in saying that if somebody send me artwork and it's just bad, right? So you always, whenever you're talking about artwork, segue here, you always want the largest file that you can get, preferably the native file, in the highest resolution in DPI, which is dots per inch. Or PPI, pixels per inch. Yeah. But I've gone so far as I've gotten such bad artwork and gone back and forth with the customer and they've told me, hey, this is the best I got. And fair enough to them. I've outsourced. Yeah. Because the time that I'm going to, if I'm going to invest 4 hours.
Time is money, man.
Into redrawing something when I could be printing or accomplishing something else in that 4 hours, I'll suck up the $20 and now that also leads into art fees, which
Well, coming from the hungry graphic designer standpoint, we are more than happy to work with you. We haggle.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
what we do.
Yeah.
We're looking for you to come back next time.
Get him in the old bid.
How come it looks purple now?
Well, you didn't specify.
Well, you're looking at an RGB monitor, and your printer's a CMYK printer.
That's funny. All right, so here's
nice.
here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna wrap this one up. Let's push our segment, our tech talk, which is gonna be our.
I think we can have.
That wasn't tech talk?
No, that was graphic talk. Where
That was
were you?
graphic talk.
I
Come
was
on.
disassociating.
Okay, good.
I think we can actually have almost half a show on tech talk. So
Okay,
we
so
can
what we'll
push
do,
that.
what we'll do, we're gonna push that to the third one, which will be our final kind of segment to wrap up, and then we'll go ahead and kind of tie everything together all at once, lay it out for everybody. Make sure though that you do listen to us wherever you get your podcasts.
That's important.
We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Podbean, we're on
YouTube.
Google Play as of today.
Yeah.
Google
Hey.
Podcasts. I saw that; it just randomly popped up. So
That's nice.
I'd assume that we're on it. And I did a little-
I did that.
Okay.
Did you?
Yeah,
Well,
I figured I'd contribute a little bit.
little sneaky snake over here.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. We got some data on it, so it's awesome. Also, too, we're going to be on YouTube. That's going to be exciting. Well, we are on YouTube. Are we on YouTube right now? Or are we going
We're
to
on
be
YouTube right now.
Yep. They're
This-
watching us on
You
YouTube.
said yes with bunny. Is it bunny ears
Dude,
or ear
we're on
quotes?
a
What does that mean?
podcast. You're not supposed to say that when I
Oh,
do
I'm
that.
sorry.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
you're
It's
off
good.
camera, so I
Right.
It's like
That's
when you,
the point.
It's like when you have a script. I walk in now. Hello, everyone.
Exactly.
I leave. All right. So, anyways, find us everywhere that you stream your podcast. You find us on all social media platforms across the board. Just updated our link tree, so there's easy to use buttons if you're on our Instagram or any other thing. Click on that link tree button; it'll take you to everything of ours. If you have any questions, always reach out to us. I think we should probably do that for now. What we're gonna do until we get our own email address. Reach out to us through Podbean. You can reach out to us through all social platforms, or you can reach out to us at info@caesarna.com, and that stuff will go directly to us.
Any and all feedback.
Any and all
welcome.
feedback, yeah, good, bad, or indifferent. We're okay with it.
You won't hurt my feelings.
And then also look out for some new segments. We're actually put some polls up on Instagram.
Polls.
Polls.
Like doing the bunny ears, man.
We're doing the bunny ears. All right, we're done.
Polls, because Rob's really going to do it over
All
there.
right, come on, let's get this done. All right, we love you, everybody. Stay creative, and we will see you next time.
See you later.